Good morning, dear distinguished...
morning.
Okay, sorry.
They didn't answer.
Yes, that was the sort of the thing. Yes, okay, but good morning, dear distinguished... Now it's coming, yes.
He didn't dance.
Dear distinguished rectors, vice rectors, Coimbra Group Executive Board, representatives, and working group members. Dear friends of the Coimbra Group here in Turku and there online. Dear conference participants. It's a great pleasure for the University of Turku and Open Academy University to host you all in our beautiful, multicultural and historical city of Turku for the 2024 Coimbra Group Annual Conference. As the oldest city in Finland, Turku has always had a special place among the Finnish cities. For nearly 800 years, science, culture, innovations, and various important movements have found their way to Finland through Turku. In today's conference, we will highlight the important theme of research and education, most impactful together. With the European Parliament election this week and the new mandate of the EU institutions ahead, we all have important key messages to convey to the future European Parliament and Commission. We should emphasize the central role of skills, knowledge, research, education, and innovation in the success of the EU and its member states. Research and education are interrelated, not hierarchical. Research best serves its general purpose when it can be translated into education. Universities play an important role in strengthening the security and resilience of Europe and, by extension, the world. Especially when our role is seen through through the lens of comprehensive security, including aspects such as food security, water security, democratization, demographic challenges, including aging and labor needs, of course, climate change, and also then digital technologies. Research, knowledge, and education must be seen as part of security of supply and resilience. We should all, also within the EU, promote the wider integration of scientific perspectives into political decision-making, support democracy and increase scientific literacy, and create attractive career paths for researchers in Europe and also in the world. It is important for higher education institutions to establish a functioning and open multilateral and multi-level governance system. We would like to take this opportunity to highlight the European University Association's project, Universities and the Future of Europe, in which I had the pleasure and opportunity to participate as a member of the steering group last year. This work has recently been finalized in the new social contract for Europe and its universities, in which European University Association developed 8 key messages for the next 5 years of the EU institutions. So, dear audience, I will state some of these key messages, main messages here. First, the EU must ensure that education, research, and innovation policies are well and comprehensively coordinated, not as separate ones, but coordinated. Second, the EU should enhance the effectiveness of the European multi-level governance system by improving coordination and links between national, regional, and European policies. Third, the EU should introduce a university check, so-called university check, prior to developing EU legislation in order to assess the impact of legislation on universities and their activities. This would be a major improvement. Fourth, the next multi-annual financial framework must equip EU funding programs in higher education, research and innovation with ambitious budgets that foster both excellence and inclusion. Fifth, the EU and universities, as well as university networks, such as our Coimbra group, should promote universities' global role as responsible bridge builders and knowledge brokers. And then also mention the sixth one there, which means that protecting and fostering academic freedom is the single most important foundation for meaningful research and teaching, which ultimately advances knowledge and thereby competitiveness and well-being of societies and people in Europe. And now I turn this to Rector Mika Lindström, please.
Thank you so much. A strong investment in research and education is a prerequisite for Europe's competitiveness, innovation activities, and economic growth. We should create and maintain an attractive and inspiring environment through the interaction of research and education to generate new ideas now and in the future. As Jukka mentioned, the multi-annual financial framework must undergo modernization to bolster the EU's competitiveness. For example, and I give 2 examples, the high quality of the framework program FP10 must be maintained, and funding should be earmarked and allocated for research and cutting-edge innovation. And secondly, the Commission must succeed in fully integrating the social sciences and humanities into this FP10 framework. In Finland, we have parliamentary consensus that research and innovation plays a crucial role in productivity growth, business renewal, and general well-being. The target has been set at 4% of the GDP in 2030. To ensure the renewal of education, the latest research results should be rapidly integrating into teaching. The Finnish Ministry of Education and Culture has allocated 255 million euros to university for piloting new practices in doctoral education in the years 24 to 27. This additional funding will be allocated to 1,000 doctoral researchers and their supervision and support services. The national aim here in Finland is to increase the number of doctors working in the private sector. At the same time, we at the university must not forget to enforce that links between top-level higher education and novel research. Advocating the key messages of higher education is a long-term effort. The results of the work may not become evident immediately, but can have far-reaching impact, and I'm sure it has. In Turku, that means here, we work together regionally to address the European Commission and the EU, but also nationally, and of course with our existing and future partners across Europe and around the world. We keep nurturing and developing different forms of cooperation. Together we have more impact. For example, during the European Research and Innovation Week, higher education institutions in Turku joined forces with other Finnish higher education institutions with Nordic partners in Brussels to organize a joint event. The outcomes are used, for instance, for informing members of Parliament, the Commission, and other key operators of the objectives. The aim is to secure a central role of higher education institutions in EU strategic focus points. Our next joint, together with other Nordic universities, some of which also belong to the Coimbra group here, will be the Nordic University Days in Brussels in September this year. The promotion of international exchanges, internships, and other forms of mobility of companies, public organizations, and other employees is also crucial for the success of European societies universities, and Europe as a whole. It is the people who make the difference. So it is vital to maintain and improve EU's role in promoting mobility, also outside Europe, and to ensure the flow of experts, information, and data. And in this, dear participants, universities have an important role to play in ensuring that the interaction between research and education continues to flourish. While citizens across EU countries generally have confidence in the positive impact of technology and science, there is also an emerging trend of skepticism towards the well-researched information. This skepticism is taking new forms and challenging established norms. For this, education is one of the keys, the main keys, to counter this trend of skepticism. Today, it is a particular interest to hear the views of the invited speakers, as well as the panelists, on the excellence in the context of ongoing national and European discussion on research and education, which together form the core of the knowledge production lines. And over to Jukka again.
Thank you, Mikael. The audience, universities and university networks, such as our Coimbra Group and the European University Alliances, have a key role in building a competitive and attractive Europe, and in addressing the challenges Europe faces. We must ensure that Europe continues to play a significant role in the global society, while stressing our academic and institutional freedom, as well as the freedom of science and scientists. Science don't have borders. It is to be noted that Europe cannot do this all alone. Our role should continue to be at the forefront of solving the common challenges together with our partners around the world. And back to Mika.
And as a reminder of this, I was reminded of some African colleagues and partners who reminded us, Jukka, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah. So let's go together. There is power in university cooperation to bring about change. We need strategic foresight for the sustainable future, and we also need to remember that research and education are most impactful together in today's very complex society. So by these words, welcome to the Turku Coimbra Group Annual Conference 2024 here in Åbo, as I say.
And in Turku, as I say.
So in this bilingual phrase, we welcome you all to Åbo and Turku, and remember, that's the same place.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So then we go off the stage.
We go.
Lund is an alumni from Åbo Academy University. She went on a student exchange period to London and danced as much as possible during her stay there. Shortly after, she opened a dance school on her own at the age of 24. Today, her dance company consists of 15 dance teachers and choreographers. And 600 of young dancers attend the regular classes. Now we will be able to witness a short dance performance by KDC dancers.
That was great. Great. KDC, they know the moves. As you remember, some of you, in Golan last year, we had Professor Rector Mikael Lindfeldt and our chairman, Ludovic Thiele, performing the dance just like that. And so thanks for you guys too. Of course, I was there in the behind also doing some moves. And you too, in the audience. That was great. So we didn't forget the feeling we had together. This is what Coimbra Group is, doing things together.
We will now officially open the program with a video greeting by Iliana Ivanova, EU Commissioner for Research, Innovation and Education.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to address you today. The Coimbra Group is an important partner, and I thank you for your tireless work in promoting and deepening the European research and education areas. Excellent research and innovation flourish when built upon the pillars of quality education and strong universities. That is why we have taken several initiatives to make research and education more impactful together. First, the European Universities Alliances, which are setting up European inter-university campuses for their students and providing their academics and researchers with unprecedented opportunities to work together across borders. Second, the ongoing reforming of research assessment, which provides a good balance and synergy between research and teaching at universities. Here, the Coimbra Group plays an active role in the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment. While quality education and thriving universities are key for innovation and progress, today Europe is still facing a significant innovation divide, which hampers our ability to achieve true excellence. Which leads me to my third point. The European Union is running an ambitious widening package under Horizon Europe with a funding volume of around 3 billion euros. And I would like to encourage you to participate in widening actions under Horizon Europe as coordinators from a widening country or in their support role as advanced partner. Finally, building a strong research and education ecosystem in Europe requires not only the efforts of the Commission and Member States, but all of you, its main stakeholders. I would like to thank the Coimbra Group for being an active and constructive actor. Together, through education, research, and innovation, we can build a brighter tomorrow for Europe. I wish you very fruitful discussions.
And now, it's our honor to welcome on the stage the keynote speaker, Professor Jani Erola. Jani Erola is a professor of sociology at the University of Turku and also the director of Invest Research Flagship Center. And he's a lot of other things too. And we are now honored to hear about that, but also more important of your thoughts of today's theme. So please, Professor Jani Erola, the floor is, and the stage is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. This is actually interesting as a topic for me as well, because usually, I think this actually is my first time and I'm invited to speak about education rather than research. Yes, I'm a professor of sociology here at the University of Turku, has been here from 2012 onwards. Since 2019, I have been directing this Invest Research Flagship Center, We acquired the grant, pretty substantial one, in 2018 and started in 2019, and the grant will continue for a while on, but I guess the flagship center will remain. The topic is inequalities interventions and the new welfare state. It's a collaboration between University of Turku and the Finnish Institute for Health and Welfare. So it's basically social sciences, a bit of a medicine there as well, and then expanding to the other fields during these years. That's a kind of a thing, I guess, for the flagship, what I'm doing. But I guess the other things that are kind of a mattering, perhaps, for this talk is my background as a researcher. I had a consolidated grant in 2014 to 19. I have a couple of year Horizon Europe project going at the moment. Mappinec, with the collaboration between 6 universities, and Learn, I think, has 10 universities and so forth. I have had a Strategic Research Council grant in 2017 and 21, and plus then the number of smaller national grants. And I guess what is kind of what is obvious from my CV, I guess there's lots of emphasis on the research-based efforts and merits, for sure. However, the thing that is perhaps not that obvious in there is that I have quite a bit of experience on building study program and teaching too. And this has been actually part of my academic career more or less from the beginning. When I started as a associate in economic sociology, 2001 or so, the first thing that we did was revising the whole master's program there. Then in 2012, the same thing when I started in sociology, and then 2019 with the flagship program, which I'm going to be talking a bit more in a second. Few words about this flagship grant scheme. So this is kind of giving a context of the talk as well. The whole flagship program started in 2019. We were one of the first ones to be funded. The definition of the whole flagship scheme is here. The Finnish flagships are the large centers of excellence combining high-quality research and diverse scientific and societal impact with strong collaboration with the business sector and other actors in society. And this I think it's summarizes quite a bit of these similar kind of programs in Europe in general. They always emphasize excellence in research, high quality of research, breakthrough potential, and so forth, combining that with the social impact. And I think especially the social impact has been something that is becoming more and more underlined in these programs than it has been before. And also there is this undertone with also that you shouldn't forget about the business side either, that you should try to build a collaboration with these parties in society. So essentially these are intended to be large-scale ecosystems of research excellence and social impact, each of them addressing major issue for science and society. For us, it basically means that we are revising the idea of the Nordic welfare state during this project. There are others that are curing cancer, and some are trying to make free energy from the sun or something like that. So each of them has a kind of this major problem that we are trying to address in the means of science. The whole history of this flagship scheme is also peculiar as well. It was introduced as a new funding initiative in 2017. Initial idea came from the Prime Minister Sipilä's cabinet at the time. They actually wanted to pick up the kind of top groups in Finland and just give them a lump of money. And of course, academia, there was a kind of not that good kind of support for that idea. So eventually, then the Research Council then ended up picking us. But I guess the idea in general is kind of a solid, that in a small country, researchers cannot be excellent in everything, so you have to figure out what areas this is the case, and then invest the money on what you actually have. And we started with 6 flagships in where we were one of them. Now there are 14, and then of course you can ask whether that is too small or too big number for the size of a society as in Finland. These were kind of an idea, I think, was a kind of a taking the a bit older idea of the centers of excellence, but just make it bigger, more ambitious, and so forth. So there has been this kind of funding schemes have been popping up in Europe quite a bit during the last 10 years or so. So what that meant in practice in the case of Invest I'm now running. So we got the large 8-year initial grant, 16.7 million in our case. But the idea was that we apply other grants during the same process, and we are now at about 50 million a year in the total budgets, and that has been going up during the years. So we are talking about 52 million or 53 million for this far. The idea was indeed building a full-blown research ecosystem to gather other grants as well, but also do significant and important research as well. So it was not only kind of a money gathering apparent, but also we have all of that as a kind of a substantial research topic. And I guess all of this if you ask ministry, this has been huge success because I think this is what all of this flagship actually managed to do, starting big and then actually getting bigger in the process. In our case, that also meant that we grew quite fast from about 50 researchers initially to 250 plus researchers, from 6 PIs to 32, I think is now current number. We started with fairly few subjects in sociology, psychology, and type psychiatry. Now we're basically covering all social sciences plus a few others as well. And what that means also that we needed to kind of impact the structures to support this, and so we have our own data and social impact infrastructures as well, plus a large-scale visiting program to support our activities. However, what is less emphasized often is this part. We also have PhD and MA programs, which we are actually pretty proud about. So the first one was the doctoral program in DP Invest that started in 2019. Then at the same time, we started planning the MA program, master's program, in the Faculty of Social Sciences that started in 2020. And now this year, we also launched another master's program in the Faculty of Medicine. That is actually the first intake has just been through, and so we should have the new program launching in autumn. And I think in general, I think we had really we kind of thought that this is important to do, and this is kind of all of them are kind of committed to these programs as teaching programs as well. They are multidisciplinary, but essentially you have to have some sort of idea. Okay, there has to be social sciences background, there has to be medicine, and if this or something close to that, but otherwise we are fairly open. We do not assume that people know that much about the topics when they start, but we provide everything. Interesting was, though, that these programs or any of the teaching part, I mean, there was one kind of a bullet point in the application guidelines and think about the impact, think about teaching as well. But definitely, we were not asked about building these programs. But we still wanted to do them because I think, in general, teaching, once you're doing research in universities and want to have social impact, I think the key component is actually teaching and teaching students at the different levels. Now, we got super positive feedback of actually this innovation of teaching at the university, which was a bit funny. We had the initial feedback impact review in 2018 when we applied, and everybody was, yeah, this is a great idea. And then the same was repeated in the midway review. And the interesting part is actually that there were a bunch of these applications to this flagship grant program, but actually suggesting these programs was really rare. I mean, this didn't seem to happen, that actually the most of these didn't suggest any new teaching programs. And it seems to us that actually this was not expected. And if you really think about what that means, or what's the message in this, it basically says, okay, teaching should not maybe be part of the scientific excellence, that should be something else. Now, this really doesn't make sense, to me at least. I mean, this is all of this. What is actually also interesting that these flagship grants were allowed to be applied any research centers or the research units, but in the end, it was clear that only the programs that were led by university was actually picked to the funding. So there was clear incentive to actually that this is something that universities need to do and we need to focus on. The question is then why to focus on universities without mentioning teaching. After all, we can say that that this is a kind of a crucial part of university activities from the beginning. And this is not only part of the flagship grant scheme, I think. I think this is a kind of a part of all of these big grant schemes. In Finnish case, but I guess in Europe in general. You would say that, okay, actually, according to the current discourse, excellence in research is disconnected from teaching, and this is really stupid. And this is, it is assumed still that this research is done by the universities, but as we know, the initial task from the 13th century Bologna and then Paris and whatever, the initial purpose of universities was actually teaching. It was a Humboldtian idea in the 1810 or something like that, when they integrated research on that, and now we have brought up the impact there, but now, obvious reasons I think that is that the teaching should be there. It's otherwise hard to justify ourselves as a universities. So what I'm suggesting here is that we should try to reconfigure the relationship between the excellence in research and teaching and do this seriously. So the question is how to do that then. I mean, there we have big grant schemes that doesn't seem to be obvious room for teaching, and the researchers themselves often want to avoid having too much teaching. When I'm talking to my colleagues about applying these grants, almost always the first thing that they bring up is, I want to buy out from teaching. And so there's clearly kind of this mismatch between the will to teach and the will to do excellent in research. So maybe in order to take a few steps back, how we have tried to do that, and in as much we have tried this far, is actually trying to figure out first what we are excellent in and how to kind of align that with teaching them. So what we have done in scientific excellence is basically built on four things, more or less. We have fairly tight selection criteria for PIs at the planning stage, based on their previous merits, especially grant-receiving merits and merits in doing research. This grant success has been also underlined since that, especially when we have been recruiting senior researchers. We have invested on globally unique data sources and also made sure that our staff have also equally unique method skills and abilities to analyze the data. And also the fourth thing is that we have left the researchers allowed to do research, whereas then the often underlined and even emergingly and more underlined part of these programs, the social impact part, we have specialized staff on actually helping research to do that. So we are not expecting that the researcher is super good in that part, but of course we expect them to contribute to that. And what you end up then having is that you have highly specialized research staff with actually rather niche skills. So they are good in one or two things, they are not good in everything. And this is something to keep in mind. And then the question is how to match that with teaching. So in our case, that has been done by kind of a thinking what we actually provide, what's the content of the programs, and also what kind of people we actually recruit as a researchers. And these two have to be kind of a matching and reflecting each other. So what was of course nice with this planning of these programs for me and others involved was that you were able to start from the blank slate in a sense. As compared to my previous experience in revising sociology master's program, economic sociology master's programs, this was a super nice task because I mean you didn't have to expect anything beforehand. You basically just thought of what we are doing in the flagship, what we need to teach, and then just pile up all the good stuff that we wanted to have there. And I think that succeeded in a very nice way. And what that allowed us was that we were able to compromise, in a sense, as little as possible. We just look at the good examples globally that we had experience in other teaching programs and just pick up the best parts of that. And then for that, I think especially the PhD program looks fairly different to the other programs in Finland, but it's more closer to the, for instance, for the model that they have at the EUI in Italy or in some other places. You were able to kind of focus on ambitiousness in the programs, in their content, and also learning goals, so you didn't have to think about that you have to get everybody a degree, but rather than you will be able to pick up the people. And then you have actually the resource, which is a human resource of about 200 plus super researchers. You just needed to think about who are actually being able to do what and what they actually can provide in the table and what others cannot. So this was very nice kind of a process of building these programs in the sense that you didn't have many strings attached in beforehand that you could concentrate on the content and the people you had. Right. And then there's of course the part of the other part which has been important, and this is always that we tend to do as well when we are recruiting people. So what we always underline to the researchers as well, even if independently how much they have been concentrated on their research content and the stuff that they are good at, we say, okay, we can provide you almost unlimited resources for your research, but of course you have to think about that for yourself alone. In order to have an academic career, you need teaching merits as well. So in order to continue further, you need to have those lines in your CV, and if you forget about then you probably have to find research jobs somewhere else than in academia. And of course that's fine as well. There are plenty of opportunities for them to go outside the universities, but one point of being at the university is actually teach. And so what we also expect that everybody actually who is doing research is also teaching. It's not a huge part, it's basically about 5% of their annual hours that they are expected to invest on teaching, which means about one or half of the course, or co-teaching in some courses. So, and of course when you have 200 people, you end up having actually quite a bit of a potential teachers there. What we also underline is that researchers also have to train themselves for teaching. Like I said, that they have niche skills, that they are good in usually in one or two things in research, and they try to be excellent in that, which means that they probably don't usually have that much skills in teaching beforehand. So what we say that, okay, you have to actually get this pedagogic training, and that's again important for your CV as well, but it's also important to become good. And of course, these people are usually, they know what it takes to be excellent in research, so they usually know as well that they are not automatically excellent teachers. So this is something that people are taking really, they are really happy about it actually, and there's not too much about complaining about that at all. And also finally, sometimes of course there's discussion and they're, okay, shouldn't I actually just concentrate on supervision? But what we also see that the supervision and teaching actually at the universities, they go hand in hand, and you cannot really have one without another. So they have to be also kind of included both of them. So, and this is something that we have tell everybody, and this is something that we also tell to the PIs of the projects and sub-projects that, okay, you have to make sure that your researchers are also doing some teaching. This is the only way they get forward in the academia, by making sure that they also have this part covered. Now, the other part, which is perhaps then a bit trickier, is of course this one. So what we definitely have done in teaching in these programs is that we focus on what is excellent in research rather than excellent teachers. And this is something that is become unavoidable in these kind of situations. So it's a trade-off that you focus on what they know rather than that they would solely focus on becoming an excellent teachers. This is something I really don't think we can solve easily. So, like I already said, that these people are excellent in research, and you know whether when you are really specialized and focused on being excellent in one thing, the chances are that you are not that excellent in other areas of life. And one of them is probably teaching. So actually, the personalities can be quite tricky. Often they are aware of them, the researchers themselves, that they can be tricky personalities, but then again, you have to specialize on one thing. They have super high personal performance expectations in their research, and of course that is reflected in their teaching as well. So they have super high expectations about the students, and this sometimes leads into a bit of a conflict as well, because students don't immediately get that idea, that thing. But at the same time, I think the part of the trade-off is at the same time, okay, they might be that they are a bit odd personalities, they might be that they are not that excellent teacher, but at the same time, they can provide something that is entirely unique and probably know things that only few people in the entire world know and are capable of doing, and this is something that we also need to communicate to the students, that they can actually get something from these people that you cannot get from anywhere else in the world. There's no YouTube video where you can learn that. So this is basically, the biggest problem really here that we have, that okay, this is a bit of a mismatch, that okay, they probably are not excellent researchers, but they are excellent in providing something. And then the question is, can we actually solve this issue somehow? And and this is where area we probably should think about kind of an innovation on our outside as well. So what I'm kind of seeing, that we should have this analogy to social impact work overall. So what we have done in these programs, and I increasingly seen elsewhere as well, academia, that you have specialized people on social impact. So you have researchers who do excellent research, and then you want to communicate that part of research to the broader community, society overall. But because they are excellent researchers, they are not excellent communicators, so you actually have people who make sure that this communication happens and supports them. And this is kind of a becoming standard and kind of a assumed structure, but we are actually not doing that in teaching yet. So, and this is perhaps something that we should think about. We should have a similar structure for teaching, that we would have teaching personnel or teaching support personnel who would support these researchers' efforts to actually teach students these excellent skills that they have. And this is something that, of course, we have always thought that, okay, the researchers and teachers are the same persons, but maybe this is not that good strategy alone unless you provide some sort of a support for that. This is not something that we have tried ourselves, but maybe this is something that we have to consider in our flagship as well in order to go forward. And maybe this is an area where we can build something new in the future. Okay, getting to an end. To conclude, today, like I said, excellence in research at the universities seem to be detached from education, which is a bit surprising. Universities were teaching institutions from the begin with. Research part came with the Humboldt a couple hundred years ago. And now this kind of seems to be that there's a more emphasis on the broader social impact, and this teaching part seems to be kind of going down or not emphasized that much. Yet at the same time, it seems to be that this connection is still assumed implicitly and maybe in practice. So it's not random that these big grants go to universities rather than some other research centers. So I think we need to do a more effort in re-establishing this connection between the excellence in research and excellence in teaching. And what I kind of see that what at least is needed to make this happen is that basically twofold things. So acknowledge and make sure that you communicate also this to the peers and researchers that for academic career, it is necessary to have a teaching track record as well in order to make it. So you need that in the end anyway to get to the professorship or whatever you're heading at. And the second part, from the institutional point of view, we should start providing more support for researchers in teaching, because they are more and more specialized in niche skills, so they probably are not that excellent in teaching alone. So there has to be kind of a novel form of having teaching impact maybe in the future. So that's it. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward for your comments and questions.
The commenting speech is made by Thomas Asser, rector of the University of Tartu since 2018. Thomas Asser is also a professor of neurosurgery and member of the Estonian Academy of Sciences since 2011. After Rector Asser's commenting speech, there will be possibilities for the audience to ask questions or comment on the topic.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. I used to be a neurosurgeon, but unfortunately not anymore. And I'm happy to say that my first visit to Turku, so neighbor country, neighbor university, in neighbor academic surroundings, was exactly 30 years ago. And now, very briefly, about my point. So this is, it gives us an overview how the university responsibilities are interconnected. And the students' population, what the Estonian public universities are responsible for, it makes about 78% of student population. We guarantee 76% of public-funded research in public. And the smaller component is also for the some contracts. And this is our aim, how to keep these things together and to develop and to keep the right balance. And now I'm going to what is in our country, in Estonia particularly, which might be a little bit different as compared to the rest, is the prevailing administration and a prevailing administrative and strategic separation of these two components, research and education and command. So you see that our national strategies means research with innovation, and on the other side, the higher education and all other levels of educations are separated. And there is only, at the moment at least, is only a singular public official who holds this dual position and dual responsibility, both for the research and higher education. And this seems to be something we have to change in the coming, hopefully in the coming very close next years. And there is a large divided national and international funding mechanisms. So we have the separate funding cohesion policy and framework policy and progress between these all the mechanisms of funding. And this is certainly one of the options we would like also to change in coming years. This graph is showing what is how is among the European or world universities the research and teaching activities separated. As you can see, it does not reflect, it does not take all the universities certainly, but those who have reported for the EACD. The data are published in 22 and it reflects from 2020, and see that there's a predominantly, so the teaching and research activities are combined. In our case, as you see, there is a almost 100% its responsibility for academic staff, and there are also universities where are exclusively just for the teaching. So these are the data from one of our surveys, which was done recently, just a couple of years ago, but it gives a overview how the academic staff, how they are actually evaluating their time spending among the different academic research. As you see, there's quite a lot of time goes to the teaching, specifically at our universities. And even in theory, we have set up certain rules how much should be done for the teaching and for the research. In reality, it's a little bit different, and that's. But this is a real data from, as an example, from our universities. These are two screenshots from our homepage, how we are evaluating what are the key performance indicators for the teaching. Well, there is no need to go in the details, basically. So there are separate indicators for teaching, and there are also the separate key performance indicators for research. The aim would be to have them jointly. So we are working on that, but it should be based on the certain law. So I'm not going into the details, but this is available in our case online, so that everybody can look at what is the target level in these indicators and how we are going to reach it. So we recently, just a couple of years ago, we changed our career model, and the aim is to enhance the job security for the best academic staff members. And the most important component is just to keep the optimal balance between the teaching and the research on the different academic positions. So that I can't say that we have reached our aims in completely, but basically it's agreeable. We can in a particular case we can discuss what should be the proportion, and I think that in reality it works. And how to organize the exit from the academic career, which is also quite important in our case. I don't go in a very details, but the most important issue is that starting from the so-called third level, which means associate professor and further professor, so the academic and teaching tracks are combined. And so I think that it has a good positive feedback in our case. We are following these regulations. So what should be what are the duties for the academic staff. And so I fully agree actually with the previous panel presentation, so that this should be on the CV. What are these duties, whether it's research, teaching, and teaching development, which is certainly one of the key points, as what was mentioned in the panel, in the presentation. But also are important some competencies like the popularization, promotion of the university, which are also all these capabilities need a certain advice and help. So it needs some kind of supporting systems just to go forward. And improvement of professional skills. And also the participation in the work of academic decision-making bodies, which is also necessary because from, at least in our case, it is I wouldn't say that it's a major problem, but certainly it's a problem. It's just how to convince and how to get the people also being part of the administration, because this is also absolutely necessary. We take a PhD student as a transitional stage from the learning to research, because they start with the research, with the learning, and if they are motivated from the very early stages, so there's a very high probability that they will go in deeply into the research track also. And the research excellence, as was already said, that it should not be disconnected from the teaching. And also it's valid also for the PhD students, so that we foresee that they should be engaged in the teaching also. What we are missing, there's two examples I was giving to you are the key performance indicators, so that we are missing the integrated quality assessment of teaching and research. So at the moment in Estonia, we are in a process which has been already more than 2 years. We are debating about the new law of the organization of research, development and innovation, which hopefully will be now in our parliament in this autumn. But this is also one of the key components to reach some way balance between the teaching and the research. And in Estonian case, we are lacking a block funding. Means that we have to apply separately for the teaching and for the research. And in my first slide, it was given also that we are heavily depending on the computational, on the research track. So it might be quite exceptional as compared to the rest of the European universities, but in our case, yes, our research money is taken. It's about 80% is competition based, so that the basic funding for the research is quite small component. So and also it should be regulated with the new law. Starting from this March, there is a debate or discussion about the careers, sustainability careers in higher education. We started this debate, and I hope that we as a country, and also being as a member of the Guild, we gave our standpoint that we really support and enhance pedagogical excellence in teaching. Means that we would support also the prestigious grants as compared, for example, to the ERC or the similars, also for the teaching. So that I think that this debate will be open in coming months, and then we'll see how it will be ending up. What we do in reality, how we can support our teaching staff in getting their skills. So there are some measures we support we support excellence in teaching at our university. So on the organizational level, so we have decided to take some performance indicators, which is a motivation for develop exactly the teaching skills, so that we will deliver about 2% from our operating support, which is a guaranteed money from the state, based on the students' feedback, and also the similar 2% for curricula, based on the curricula developments, and other teaching-related developments, another 1%. And I should say that it's really quite motivating things just to support the performance in teaching. And there is another financing internal quality assessment curricula we are supporting, which is we will deliver about 4% of the operating support, and that is also quite motivating. On the individual level, the support of academic developments and instructional designers at the center of the learning and teaching. So this was recently opened at our university, and I fully agree that this type of support is absolutely needed, both for the teachers and also for the research staff. This Center of Teaching and Learning was opened in 2000. Pedagogical training was offered starting from 2000 in very different forms, and we provide also teaching to e-tools consultation, and also the communities of practice. So there are also, in my view, it's a very interesting approach is a visit your colleague, which has been very popular among the academic staff. I myself, even being out of the real practical teaching anymore, but I was visiting, and that was really very motivating, both for me personally and also for the lecturers. And we hold the annual conferences. And my final thing is a scholarship for the teaching and learning, which was also started in 2015. And we provide each year 12 faculty members a scholarship for 2 years as a financial support. It's very actively used. And this is something I think that it has certainly also a positive feedback in this respect. So that basically, in my conclusion, I fully support what Professor Eral was saying, proposing, so the remarks, and we should pay much more attention for the not only for the research, but also for the teaching, and support them with the different measures. So, thank you. So, thank you, dear.
Thank you very much, Rector Asser. And I'd like to also invite Professor Jani Erola back to the stage. And thank you both for the very interesting thoughts and insights, and provoking somehow too. And I really hope, let's go, let the gentleman stand there. So now it's time for you to act.
Or maybe, I don't know if Jani, you would like to start?
Yes.
And if you have questions or comments, then please raise your hand, because we need to use the microphones, so they will be given to you.
Yes. So, Professor Jani Erola, you have now the chance to react on the feedback and comments first. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I think we are agreeing in a lot of things, and I think there actually are some good examples that you provided. I think there's external funding, extra funding for developing your own teaching actually is, I think that can be easily included also in this kind of a program, say you have a heavily research-based, because I think that also allows people to develop the teaching based on what they are excellent in, and I think that's an important thing. And I guess I think we are in all of European countries. We are struggling actually in making this combination with these two things, and that's not always easy.
So we actually, with my colleagues, we have not fully agreed whether we have a split in academic and research tracks in our country. But I think that as I tried to show that at least on the state level there is a split certainly, and that it should be somehow overcome. When it comes to reality in on the daily life, so I don't think so there is a huge split, but still I fully agree that we do need a support for the teaching staff specifically.
Yeah. Yep, I think that's my reflection this far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So please, the audience, questions. Here we have the first one. Here in the front.
This one. And then.
Thank you very much to both of you. I'm Beatrix Busse, Vice Rector for Teaching and Learning at Cologne University, and thanks for your thoughts on how to integrate teaching and research. Very hopeful, and I think we can create futures, which is very important. My question relates to, as an activist for education, my question relates to the selection of the next generation of learners, and I'm explicitly saying learners and not students, because I think we're all learners in a way. How do you do this? I mean, do you use the criteria you have suggested, or how do you do this, or is there just more than a brain to how we select the next generation? Thank you.
That is a very good question. I think that also varies a lot. I mean, there are institutional variation for that. I mean, in the Finnish case, in general, the higher education is fairly select. University education, especially, is very selective, and especially the top programs are super selective. But of course, we have lots of examples in Europe where you don't have that much initial selection, that happens in the later stages. But in the Finnish system, that is kind of an interval, so we don't have to worry that much about that. And then in our case, in our master's programs case, we also normally in the Finnish system you enter to the bachelor level and you have a right to continue to the master's. But in our case, we have a second selection in the master's level as well. What kind of of course, you have to make sure that the learners are motivated to learn the topics that you are giving. I mean, of course, we are not trying to teach everything. We have a specific, like I said, niche area where the people are supposed to specialize in. And of course, the student, learner also has to be motivated in actually learning that part also, rather than something else. But of course, from the learning point of view, I think the whole idea has changed as well, that you are not expected to learn everything on one program. You are expected to learn for your entire life and increase your learning. So it doesn't mean that these specific programs have to be everything that you'll learn for your professional skills forever, basically.
Certainly there is no single answer to the question, and then it starts already how the students actually select what they are going to study on the bachelor's level and then further, and the future salaries is not probably the driving force, but there's quite a lot is important. So their motivation, what they actually want to study. And they don't look at anymore about the prestigious positions, but they have to go in the positions where they like to be in the future. And means that you can't, for example, forcefully direct a certain person if he or she is not interested in, let's say, in real, natural sciences, so that you can't do that just. But there are In some fields, there are special needs well, in my case, like being a medical person, I think that there are certain, should be certain selection criteria also during the studies even. So whether it's just based on the on academic merits or something else. So it's it depends on the particular institution. So, but it's we also know because our aim. I was showing the key performance indicators so that the dropout rate numbers should be going down, and so we try to follow these.
Yeah, and I guess it's also in general. I think it's an important to have this discussion as well about the learner motivation in general, because I mean that appears to be the case in actually across the Europe that the youth is kind of postponing their start of its studies because they don't want to make a mistake of choosing the wrong field, and they're trying to optimize that as well, which is actually also a bit stupid, right? I mean, if you have an entire life and you can actually try different things, maybe you should have a bit lower threshold at actually trying one thing, and if it doesn't work out, then trying to something else. But of course, that it means that we have to have systems that allow them to fail as well, and try actually change their tracks and that is a bit more harder task to actually guarantee also in the future, because it's costly for the societies, but maybe that is something that we need to do anyway.
Well, if you look at, there are some special fields like mathematics, physics, chemistry, so all of us, we are suffering. There are not enough students. I don't think so. That's not only our problem, so it's everywhere. Yeah. And even though if you are increasing, some stipends or some financial support, so you may not reach the result you want to. Yeah, so means.
Okay, thank you. And then on the fourth row, our colleague there.
Thank you. Good morning. And I'm Yerena from the University of Washington. And I wanted to add to the conversation that just started from the previous comment that I believe that in addition to the selection of learners, the criteria for the selection of educators needs to go hand in hand. And I understand that there are educators that are already here. We're not going to necessarily be able to reform everything at once. Yet that requirement of the evidence of teaching excellence as part of the hiring process needs to happen in addition to a requirement of evidence demonstrating their research capacities and abilities. So again, just adding to that, I believe that there's more onus, more responsibility on behalf of the universities in how they select colleagues and educators. My question is, could you please, I appreciated having the data in an ideal world, I'd see the slide again, but I don't know if technologically that's possible. The slide demonstrating the disparity between the amount of time colleagues spend on research versus teaching. So putting it out there, if somebody in the back of the hall can control those slides. Because my question relates to that particular slide. Could you all, and yet I think that both of you would have things to contribute. If you could please share your understanding of the factors that contribute to this disparity in time spent on teaching versus research in academic roles, and what measures you believe could be implemented to support and address, to balance this difference.
So, so first of all, thank you for the quite complex question. I should say that, so if we have agreed in a certain proportions for education and research, so then that person, he knows or she knows that in coming years, let's say in 5 years, so he or she has to fulfill these agreements. And well, my understanding has been that so they are quite precisely following these agreements. I think that it is a motivation just to follow this. But this particular data I was showing, so the green part which goes to the teaching, well, it varies. So we have, of course, we have made a law in the universities what should be the percentage, well, certain limits. And I saw that the survey shows that for the teaching, the time is much more bigger as we have agreed in our regulations. So that means that they are in somehow specifically. I should say that all the levels, not only the professors but also the lower levels. Yeah, but I don't have the magic bullet how to convince the people so that.
Well, I have actually. So how we have done this? I mean, this was when I was directing the head of the sociology unit before starting the flagship thing. That was what we did. That you had the budget positions for teaching positions, and what you then did, you acquired research grants that they allowed you to actually recruit researchers. But then you have this 5% requirement for the researchers also to teach. So that actually is the teaching load quite a bit for those who are in the teaching positions. Now, of course, that meant that what we needed to make sure was that also those in teaching positions were able to do high quality research. And that was actually the bigger concern, I guess, initially. And I think this is very important to make sure that even if you have if you have a teaching position, the teaching heavy positions, you still have to make sure that they have these teachers have their own-ish area, specialty area and research as well. And this is actually, you can actually balance that at the unit level quite a bit if you want to, if you need to do that. So there is actually leeway I think there are ways of doing that. But of course, that needs to be, and you have to have quite a bit of external funding to get actually research for kind of a traditional university unit, I would say.
And there is, for me, there is a personal level, and there is also the team level, or the area institute level, or the research group level, so that, and this should be also in harmony, I should say, that in that case it works.
Question here in the front row by Ludovic.
Ludovic Tilly, chair of the Coimbra Group Executive Board. I will be actually purposely a little bit provocative, and in a way it will maybe also advance our discussion on the previous question, which I believe was absolutely crucial, because, well, maybe this is only a personal view, but I think that there is an elephant in the room, which is that, actually it's a pity that we don't see anymore that slide, but I guess we all have it in mind, that what we see in that, well, maybe it's a misinterpretation, but if so, please correct me, that we see that as the colleagues go senior in their career, their teaching duty reduces. And, well, the elephant in the room, and maybe again I'm wrong, is that usually it's because they want to get rid of their teaching duty or part of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, which means that actually, again, if we look reality as it is, in most cases people praise research and want to get rid of their teaching activities. And they give it to their students, to their assistants, and so on. That's, I'm afraid, the sad reality. So how, and in parallel, as you know, there is at the moment at European level a very important discussion, and more than a discussion, which is about how to reform the research and researchers' assessment. So how do you see a possibility of using this discussion and reform on the research and researchers' assessment to maybe give to the academics a real opportunity to equally praise the both facets, which are actually, as we could see, absolutely crucial for making universities what they are and what they should be. So how can we make sure that the career progress is equally based on your research capacity, but also your teaching involvement?
Okay, maybe Jani has an answer. I don't, but well, it's just an explanation on the screen. So the professors time-consuming, so 26%, this is a real result for our universities. It is coursed, so they are responsible to capture money and the means. So they're just fully responsible, so they're fully engaged in writing projects, in evaluating, negotiating, so that the most of the time goes there. So and that's not a real research even, but just as a component of the research obligations on the professor's level. Yes, but maybe Jani has an answer to
this as well. Well, okay, I think you have to think about this in the same way that you're doing how the research has changed as well. I mean, you need to become niche specialist in research in order to make it into top research. This is clear that this is kind of a sport analogy that, you have to be good in one sport in track and field, not in everything, right? And I think research has exactly the same. But maybe that should also extend to teaching as well. And when I started teaching, in the first teaching position, I think I had 4 courses in the autumn and 4 courses in the spring. And of course, I was supposed to be a specialist in everything. And if I didn't know that beforehand, then I needed to learn that in 2 weeks or whatever when I was putting the course together. But of course, it's insane. It's obvious that I cannot be a specialist in everything. So what I would actually suggest that we try to kind of suggest that also researchers think about that they need to have this one course where they have their ownership in a sense, their area where they are specialized in, and think about how they communicate that to the students. And maybe that would be the kind of a way ahead. Because obviously, if you are a teacher and you have spending half of your time teaching, you are probably teaching quite a few things that you are not specialist in. This is obvious. I think it's so this balance has to be found, but we have to think about the specialization also in the teaching part.
Okay, thank you for everyone, for the speakers, for the audience. Now it's like I could say, you mentioned carrots. So use carrots, and we are going to use coffee break. For those who couldn't ask now your questions, hey, use the coffee break. They are here still, the speakers. And on our behalf, we thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. Good discussion. Yeah.
And please be reminded to be back 11 o'clock sharp.
Welcome back. Next on the program is a panel session called Research and Education at the Core of the Knowledge Factory. It will be moderated by Pia Björn, Vice Rector at the University of Turku and also member of the Executive Board of the Coimbra Group. And in the panel, we have Professor Bengt Kristensson Uggla from Åbo University, Rector Roberto Di Pietra, University of Siena, and Rector Giovanni Molari, University of Bologna. And finally, Tina Delva from the European Commission.
Yes, thank you for your kind introductions, and I need to tell you as well that I have been given a new nickname during this conference. I'm now called the Mother. And I believe that our panelists already got a glimpse of that at the back just now. But actually, we decided that we will use our first names. We need to forget any other types of calling us professors, rectors, vice rectors, to have a really good and in-depth discussion. Also, I told them, my dear panelists, that they can do whatever they want to on stage, so we'll soon see what will happen. Really, we want you to enjoy. And also, I think that there will be some time left for your questions and comments as well at the end of the discussions, so please write them down and remember them so that we can continue also discussion with you just a bit. We were thinking of starting by introductory round, by telling some facts or memories or about our relation to Coimbra Group, just to warm up a bit. So I'm Pia Björn, I'm Vice Rector for Education, I'm Coimbra Group EB member, happy to be that, and I have already many good and dear Coimbra Group memories, but I really appreciate Coimbra Group about the policy work it does. And then next to Bent.
Professor of Philosophy, Culture and Management at Åbo Academy University here. I spent most of my academic career on developing a kind of cross-disciplinary hermeneutics inspired by the French philosopher Paul Ricard. I have no memories and nothing to regret from the Coimbra Group's meetings.
But you are now creating them, aren't you?
I would be happy to be involved more in the Coimbra network. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome to this panel. And then we have Roberto.
Hi, good morning. I'm Roberto Di Pietra. I'm professor in accounting and business administration in my university. By an accident of my history, I'm the rector of this university. I have in my experience 10 years as editor-in-chief of a journal published by Springer Verlag.
Hi, I'm Giovanni Molari, rector of the University of Bologna. I'm professor of agricultural mechanics in the Department of Agriculture and Food Sciences, and I worked a lot on tractors. Then I moved my activities to the management of a big university like the University of Bologna.
Yes, and actually next year I think that we are...
Yes, next year in 2025 we organize the Coimbra Group event in Bologna.
Yeah, wonderful. And then we have Tine.
Yes, thank you. My name is Tine Delva. I work at the European Commission in the Higher Education Department. And it's a real pleasure to be here, as from the Commission side, we have experienced actually a wonderful cooperation with Coimbra, so I can be a little bit more elaborate than some of the colleagues here. Coimbra for us has been instrumental in developing several of the European policies in higher education. Think about the European Universities Initiative, the European Strategy for Universities. Coimbra was closely involved in all the consultations that we have led on that front. And also on the research side, Coimbra is very active in the groups of the European research area that my colleagues from the research department are leading. So from our side, this is really a call to Coimbra and its members to continue the cooperation and to immediately awaken you after the break. And as we had some liberty to speak, I would actually already like to launch a call towards Coimbra, but not only to the management, but also to the individual members of the Coimbra group. We are talking here about breaking barriers between education and research, and this is, for example, what the European Universities Initiative has managed to do, working on an integrated strategy on education and research. But undertaking the strategy, the alliances and universities are facing quite some hurdles from time to time, and not only the alliances but also the wider higher education sector. For example, when it comes in putting together joint programs. We have heard just before how important it is that your researchers also have the capacity and the time and the means to work on interesting programs for their students. So also when it comes to transnational cooperation, to having your researchers and your academics working on joint programs with universities from all across Europe, we need to join forces. And this is why the Commission at the end of March has proposed a blueprint for a European degree, where we would really like to take these joint programs to the next level, to really allow your students and young researchers to benefit from transnational European programs in which they really can gain the skills that they need for their future, while at the same time allowing you as universities to cut the red tape that is involved in these joint programs. So then why now this plea to you? Because we have now put this proposal on the table, but we need your help. As you know, education, it's a competence of the member states. The organization of higher education and the handing out of degrees is a member state competence. So now we are sitting around the table with the member states to make sure the European degree can become a reality in the different member states. And it is really here that we need your help. As always, transformation is always a little bit scary at the start. So we need to convince member states that indeed that you are partie demandeur, that you are asking for increasing this transnational cooperation in higher education, and that you would like to see this European degree to become a reality. Because 35 years ago, when we have set up the Erasmus Plus program, I think almost everybody has forgotten, but initially there was quite some resistance from member states. It took 2 years for the real Erasmus Plus program to get approved. And honestly, from the Commission side, we have been talking back to some of the colleagues back then. And basically, it is thanks to the rectors of the universities, to the management and the staff and academics of universities. You went to talk at the time to your ministers, to your ministries, to convince them of the needs of an Erasmus Plus program. So this is also where now from the Commission side we would like to launch a warm plea towards all of you to help us on the road and try to make the European degree reality, and to mobilize the universities in your countries and talk to your ministries to ensure that we can get these educational programs up and running, so that also your academics and researchers can benefit from this educational experience also across boundaries. So this as a small introduction and to awaken you after the coffee break.
Yes, thank you so much, Tina. I can assure you that we are contributing. We have been making statements at EUA level, and I think that Coimbra Group is contributing in many ways as well. And thank you for your talk. I think that the European Degree Initiative indeed is important. And actually my first question was about your experiences on how research has actually contributed to different types of educational innovations. So I think that, Tina, for you, the question might be that how will the Commission make sure that at the starting point of the European degree, the programs will stem from the highest possible research in terms of excellence, because we want also the research results be translated into best possible types of educational programs.
Indeed, and I think this the theme of this conference and the question that you pose, like linking research and education, couldn't be more timely. Indeed, as also at the European level, we are gearing up towards the next programming period, where we will discuss also how the budgets will be handed out. And recently, we had the former Prime Minister of Italy, Enrico Letta. He has released a report on the future of the European single markets and how also education and research are of key importance. We already have freedoms in the single market, but he is proposing to add a fifth one, really the freedom to have education and research and innovation across Europe. So, and in this sense, the work towards a European degree and integrating research and innovation is of key importance, and how to ensure indeed that in this education, the research research components are clearly embedded. I think it's clear that we have seen many examples in the keynote speech this morning on how this can be achieved. But I would also like to emphasize a little bit the other way around. It's not only research influencing education, it's also about education influencing research. We have seen here that there is this morning we discussed that sometimes there is a reluctance of the researchers to get involved into education, but this is where recently we have seen quite a lot of great initiatives by the sector to also inverse that role and to have actually their students more involved in the research activities. And that can also become a part of the programs, of the educational programs. For example, several European universities, but also individual universities, they are working on, for example, bringing their students together with their academics, with their researchers, with societal actors. Think about regional authority, businesses, and they ask them to work together on the challenges that, for example, a region is facing. And for that, the research expertise can be used together with the students. They can have traineeships in research units. It's about setting up also these living labs where everybody can be infused, so really going for this cross-fertilization between education and R&I.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think that the audience wants to hear more also about concrete examples of the interrelationship between education into research and research into education. Please.
Okay, I think that in general, Coimbra Group and the other occasion like this is a very great opportunity to increase European networking to have an impact on our activities. In my experience, a lot of our top research projects, in large part driven in collaboration with private companies, have stimulated the design of new degree programs. I can try with some example to highlight my point of view. In our region, Emilia-Romagna region, we have a lot of companies that work on automotive sectors, like Ferrari, Ducati, Lamborghini. And some years ago, they asked us to organize in the region with the different universities of the region a new degree program on automotive vehicles. That is a transformation of mechanical engineering degree in automotive vehicle degree, with some specific teaching activities focused on the main part of the design of new vehicles in different sectors, not only car, moto, and bikes, tractors. And I think that is a great example of how research activity driven with companies could organize, could suggest new teaching activities. The second example is example of my sector, agricultural science. The collaboration, the European projects on agriculture, precision agriculture, help us to move from a standard degree on agricultural science to precision agricultural degree with some specific example. Also that in this case focused on research activities driven in teaching activities. The last one is an example on cultural heritage. The standard degree on cultural heritage in this moment in our university are moved in digital humanities to try to change the teaching activity to a new way, more modern teaching activities related to digital humanities. I think that this could be three examples, but this moving from research to teaching activities through also in PhD courses in minors that we organized in our teaching activities, but also in all the single teaching activities of the single bachelor and master courses of our university, one with some specific detailed courses born from the collaboration between researchers' activities to teaching activities.
Yes, thank you very much, and very interesting examples. I only remember the car labels, but really, yeah.
But Ferrari is
Lamborghini, Ducati. Yeah. No. But we want to hear some more, I think. So.
I don't have examples. I don't want to have example.
But you can otherwise elaborate.
I would like to propose some provocative thoughts.
Wonderful.
Because maybe a few minutes ago it was mentioned, there is the elephant in the room. And probably we have to find a way to move this elephant outdoor. Because we all agree the idea that we are professors and we profess a scientific discipline. So we learn and we bring this knowledge in the classroom. Sorry, I'm using old terms. So professors, students. But this is the fact that probably related to the age of my university. So please accept this word, these terms. So we have this, activity. We bring research in our classrooms and we teach. And this is the good. We have to bring new knowledge for the learning process of our students. The bad sometimes is related to the fact that a part of our research seems to be hectic, not related to the target of the course. Quite specific, and probably it is related to the assessment of the research system. A few weeks ago, I had the honor to publish an editorial on the Coimbra newsletter, and I have already mentioned it. I have 10 years, as I told before, of experience as editor-in-chief of a journal. And I have experienced 1,500 papers. Large part of them are useful, luckily. But another large part of them, I have serious doubt that they are really useful. They follow another idea that is related to the research assessment. We publish because we have to publish. Otherwise, we are punished. And this is not related with, the advancement of the research, and this is not related to the education process. We have to question ourselves about it. And this obsession about this kind of research is not impactful on the education process and not impactful on the societal needs. I'm provocative. I'm sure about it. But this is a way to solicitate the discussion after. So we need, as before the speakers told us, we need to move the pendulum from research to teaching. This is strongly important. We have to convince our governments, defining the policy fundings, the public universities, the state university, to change the way to evaluate professors, because professors are researchers and teachers. If they are evaluating us only because we are producers of articles in A-class journals, this is not related to our mission. We have to change it. We have to search for a balance in it, because we are not following our mission. I can stop here.
Thank you. Very strong words. What do you think?
I really appreciate this provocation, and I think we need to speak more about the elephant in the room, and without imagining we're at the zoo now. But I think it's necessary to state that the problems of disconnect that we heard this morning is caused by the European university system and how this is governed itself. So we are part of the problem. And it's not by coincidence that this has happened, that we have an incentive system that is supporting this kind of mentality. And I think we are part of the problem, and we have also this kind of formalized model for both research and education. I would say is outdated, and we need to rethink this system. For example, on the educational level, that we are punished because of the dropouts, but some of our dropouts are the best students and are also, we have done the best work. We should be rewarded because of these dropouts and not punished by them. There are this kind of formalized problems in the system. But I'm convinced that we really need to reclaim education as a major task of universities, and also raise the status of teaching. At the best universities in the world, professors teach, and they honor their classes. And I think, why is it important to keep research and education together? In an age of cognitive destabilization and multiple crises, as we experience now, it's extremely important to keep people and knowledge together. Always connect people and knowledge. There is no knowledge without people. And so research and teaching need to be connected. Also, if we understand what science is about, science is not about storing information or transferring knowledge. It's about creating knowledge, and it's about discovering new words. And we cannot discover new words without inventions. And this dialectic, this complex dialectics between discoveries and inventions, this is what science is about. And this is what's happening on an individual level, what we experience on an individual level in education, but this is also what's happened on the universal, from a universal horizon, in research. And we need to keep these two processes together to keep the scientific enterprise fresh. So I think it's a mistake to think that we should have a research-based education. We should also have a teaching-based research. Because also something happening also with the teacher when you teach. This is also important for us as people, as scholars at the university, to teach. This is not only it's not only an instrumental or instrumentalized relationship between producing knowledge at research and then distributing this knowledge in teaching. This is not a good model for success. And I think the strategic link between education and research is on every major level in our curriculum. On every level, you are supposed as a student to write a thesis. And this is a reminder that knowledge is not something that we store, but something that we create. and that we have to cope with this balance between discovering the word and inventing the word. And we need to be familiar with that dialectic. And so it's only when you come to this phase in your education where you're supposed to write a thesis that you understand what science is about and how science works. And this knowledge about this capability to know how science works is what we need today in this global destabilization of our cognitive infrastructures. We all need to be involved in this, to keep people and knowledge together, and not back to this instrumentalized model of producing knowledge or information and then distributing this knowledge. So I think this is really to the core of what university is about and what science is about, and also what the world needs now. And if we don't succeed with this, we will be part of the problem today. Yeah. That's my opinion.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, you mentioned the fact that we are facing multiple crises, and we need to be able to transform our work here, our research here, into multidisciplinary education or degree programs. Now, does this development pose some kind of threat to the traditions of sciences, in your opinion, or are there new possibilities to be explored? I might clarify just a bit that we are used to having these quite tight degree programs based on each discipline. And now, if we want to really solve these multiple problems, crises the world is facing, we have war going on in Europe, climate change is ongoing, and so on. It's not enough to have only these traditional programs. Do you think that multidisciplinarity is the way to go? Are there some problems with that, or do we just change our curricula into that direction? Let's go full circle with this. Tine first.
Okay, thank you for this interesting approach, because indeed we talked about the fact that we need strong disciplines and strong disciplinary knowledge and excellence, and we will always need that. But on top of that, like you said, we have these problems, these societal challenges that increasingly become interrelated. So basically, if we wish to remain relevant, I think the coupling the strong disciplinary knowledge with transdisciplinarity will be key in the future. And I think this is both the case and for research and for education. So here again, the strong link and the breaking down between the silos is needed. And to come back to the Commission's proposal on the European degree, this is also exactly what we have put forward. What would make a European degree different compared to a traditional joint program is that it would adhere to certain criteria at European level that have been co-created with the sector and with the member states, and that would need to be checked also at a national level within the national system. But basically, one of these criteria is indeed linked to this transdisciplinarity, to make sure that our students get the skills they need to be future-proof, to make them have a better chance at the labor market, to have them a better shot at saving and solving these societal challenges. Think also about the digital and the green skills that they will need in their future careers, and also to tackle the issues. So with the European degree, we are indeed trying to come forward to the issues that are just raised, and indeed trying to ensure that indeed it's also the most excellent researchers that are part of these curricula and can can enrich not only the students' life, but as you said, also get infused by the different ideas that the students have. So this is also where these more novel ways of teaching can be very relevant also for the further lifelong learning part of the researchers. Because in our view, it's also, when you're talking about societal relevance of research, it's also about reaching out to society. And your students are part of society, they are connected. So it's also through your education that you can communicate about your research and innovation activities. And as such, you can also help to fight the polarization, because our youngsters, our students, but also our lifelong learners, of course, but they are the ones that will be shaping our society in the future. So for us, this is also of great added value in view of fighting the polarization that is currently ongoing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And then, Giovanni.
Thank you very much for this question, because I think that is really important in our university in this moment. I'm rector from 3 years, 2 years and a half, and there was the pandemic problems. Then 1 year ago, a big flood in our region that destroyed a lot of situations, and then the war with a lot of protests in our universities in all the world, but also in my university. And when we are in these situations, with incredible new situation for our university, I think that is really important to have new solutions, because standard solutions are not effective. Then I think that is really important to work in a multidisciplinary perspective, because not one subject not have the solution for all these problems, because we need to change the approach to work together, and to work together with different competence, but also to work together with other universities, because we cannot solve all these problems. And in my opinion, a network like Coimbra Group is really the solution to discuss, because we cannot have different voices for each one of these problems, because we will manage this problem in the next years, and we need to find only one voice, because with different voices we cannot solve the problem.
True. Thank you very much. And then, what about Roberto?
Thanks, Pia. I fully agree with the idea that we need to change the paradigm. So interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity are the things we have to do. It's easy to say, it's hard to do, because every one of us is speaking a language that is, from a discipline point of view, totally different. So we need to understand each other. This is impacting also, and both on the research and on the teaching activity. We have to do it, but I don't know if it is in other countries, but for sure in my country, we need to search for less regulation, less barriers among the disciplines. So we need again to convince the governments to find a way to make more flexible the activity when we do research, when we do teaching activities. This is strongly important, because otherwise it is quite hard to overpass the strict barriers we have by the law, by the regulation among the disciplines.
Yes, thank you. So, Ben.
Of course, we need cross-disciplinary perspectives and work more cross-disciplinary. The world and the society is not divided into disciplines, and if we would like to make an impact, we need also to think outside the disciplinary box. We need, after a 200-year period of differentiation, we need hybridization of disciplines, I think. At the same time, we are facing an institutional crisis for the academic life. There is in an incentive system where everything is connected to results and nothing is connected to processes. The processes of collegiality, which is the only thing that safeguards the scientific enterprise, these processes are being weakening, and we don't know how to cope with these processes outside the disciplines. So how can we strengthen the institutional character? And that's one of the many paradoxes today that needs a kind of dialectic strategy is that we need, at the same time that we need to open the university to society, we need also to strengthen the institutional, the academic institution. And the competition system in academia is not the same, is not ruled by the same in the same way as media, the competition system in media, or in a marketplace, so we need to reconsider what it means to what this kind of mutual criticism that we are trained in academia, but we don't have any time for it any longer because everything is about deliveries now. Everything is about publishing, and everything is about. So this is we can't leave the disciplines, and we can't we can't move into this multidisciplinary era without transforming ourselves also and renewing ourselves and the collegial system, because I'm really scared about what's happening because when research goes press conference, it's about news, and it's about the most extreme opinions, and it's not about the balanced view and that you are used to in an academic seminar. And you can't, people and the public audience can't cope with this kind of scientific knowledge, and that's part of the problem. I think that's something. Perhaps something you shouldn't say here in this Coimbra group, but I have been convinced for a long time that the universities are around the corner. The universities are facing a deep crisis because we cannot go on as we have done, and this new formalization that comes also from Brussels very much is not the way into the future for the university. But I'm optimistic at the same time because the university has proven to reinvent itself so many times during history, and I think we are in that situation now. And for example, the cognitive automatization, as we call artificial intelligence, will totally challenge our research, how we evaluate research and how we teach, and so we are facing such huge challenges. So we should be ready to reinvent ourselves my conviction is that in this time full of paradoxes, we need to think much more dialectical, much more both of how can we connect, how can we link things, how can we, and not either or. But,
Well, thank you. I think that what you just said about finding a balance might be one answer to this as well. We need to maintain disciplinarity but bring transdisciplinarity into the programs in a decent and reasonable way. And actually right now it will be time for the last round. A quick take-home message for the audience before we let them to ask and comment. So Bengt, what would be your take-home message from this discussion? Short.
That there are a number of missing links and disconnects that we need to cope with. Perhaps I would add, if I'm allowed to add, I think we need also a new balance between competition and cooperation. We talk about cooperation in one room and we talk about competition in another room. And we need to think more about how to link competition and cooperation, both on an institutional level but also on an individual level. In the end, it comes back to who we are as human beings, that we cannot prevail only by coming back to the self-interest. We need more than self-interest. We need competition and cooperation. And how can these two forces that are so strong be coordinated or balanced?
Yes, thank you.
Fully agree. But let me finish with another provocation.
Good.
My stakeholders are requesting several times, more applied research, less basic research. And the same stakeholders are requesting to my universities, the setting of new courses, related to emerging needs on the labor market. I do not agree. If we are able to generate innovation, this is because we are able to generate basic research. The history of RNA messenger technology now is dating back the 70s. And without the basic research, all we passed in the last 2 years, 3 years in the pandemic wasn't possible. So what the universities, the public and state university has to do in order to be able to generate disruptive research is to continue to generate the real knowledge that is the basic research. And this is the case also for the teaching activity. We don't have to follow the industries requesting us a specific course because our perspective is long-term perspective. We don't have to be responsive on the short-term request from the labor market because this is not a good service for our students. I don't know if you agree with it.
Well, let's hear. What do you say, Giovanni?
On the first part, completely agree. The second, I can discuss, but it's required too much time. Two small messages. The first one, I think that is really important to European level to continue to support the research because the research in these years have increased our opportunities, but also our collaboration at European level and not only. And I think that with FP10, it is necessary to continue to support some the main research activities like ERC, like Marie Curie, like Erasmus and so on. Second, and also it is necessary to try to find a solution to work together with companies, not only finalize to company, but work with companies is important in my opinion. The second message is to continue to work on common degree in Europe, because the opportunity to have teaching activities common in different universities highlights our government, as Roberto said before, to break constraints, because we have too much constraints on teaching activities to organize them, and help our students to know the different situation in Europe. And I think that is really important for our students and also for our professors and our staff.
Yes, thank you very much. And then Tine, your take-home message.
Well, on the joint programs European degree, you repeated the need from the sector yourself, so take home message, I will not repeat that, but for me it's about continuing to supporting the higher education sector in thriving and in empowering them to continue shaping our societies. And indeed, this includes strong basic research and traditional educational activities. And for that, I've also taken the homework with me to Brussels on the to-do list of the points that the rectors gave this morning. So indeed, we will fight for continued high Horizon and Erasmus Plus budgets. For that, we will sit together at the table with the member states and the European Parliament. But from the Commission side, you can rest assured that we are ready to battle for this, combining both excellence and inclusion. We don't see excellence as one side. It's one coin with two sides. And for that, of course, we strongly believe that this transnational cooperation can be crucial here, not only for few universities across Europe, but really for the wider higher education sector. And this is where we will continue to supporting also some of our flagship initiatives, such as the European Universities Initiative, our work towards the European degree, and the research cooperations like in ERC and the MSCA. So it's really to help the universities to bring also societal contributions.
Yes, wonderful. And I suggest applause at this point to our wonderful panelists. And as you can see, Irinia and Harriet have returned to the stage. And I think that we have time for one or two questions or comments, and they will do the sharing of the...
So we have one microphone, so who wants it first? Oh, you've been clever, your panelists. You've answered all their questions, but there's...
Hundreds of hands. Okay, so I'm Danny Donoghue from the University of Durham and a member of the Executive Board. You've raised some really interesting, provocative questions, and for me, I'm a very practical person, and I'm trying to think where disciplinary excellence is important, transverse skills are important, and interdisciplinarity is important. So where do these fit within our Bologna process and within our degree structures? Are we going to sacrifice a year of our education for cross-disciplinarity? Are we going to make master's degrees all cross-disciplinarity? How are we going to fit what we require for the future into our existing structures? And so in a way that's a challenge, isn't it, for each of our universities? It's also a challenge in a way for the Commission when we're thinking about European degrees. Because we have to be fair to our students, but we also know we have an employability working group here, and they're very concerned. I had some very pleasant time with that group, and they're really thinking about what the pressures are on the students, and thinking what the skills they need for employability for the future. So I'd be very interested to know how you think we square this circle of fitting what we need into what it effectively is our Bologna model or what are our future European degrees. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I?
Yeah.
When we project a new course, we have to follow the rules, as I said before. And when we put the elements, apparently these elements are boxes. We need to break the boxes. We need to find a way to make possible that a philosopher could teach in a course of medicine and surgery. Because we need someone with, elements of ethics in medicine and surgery. Actually, it is not so easy to do. So we need to reproject the rules in a way that is possible to have in the same classroom professors from different disciplines. Actually, it is possible, but it is something that you have to negotiate with the rules. Someone has to approve. Someone from the ministry of the university has to approve. This is not the fluidity we need in this kind of in this age. And let me add one point related to it. To be responsive to a market requesting something, you need to provide this in this moment. But if you project, and then the graduation takes 3 years, and then the graduated students will be out on the market, or that market 3 years later, probably there is a displacement. So what we need to do is to provide other capacity, other abilities that are useful, because the market is changing continuously. So if you design a professionality now, after 3 or 5 years, think about medicine after 10 years, that kind of knowledge could be different. So we need to provide them abilities.
Can I add just a little bit? I completely agree. But if we are not able to destroy constraints, the only way is to work on a new solution on teaching activities, like minor or similar transversal competence. We can try to organize innovative teaching activities.
Yes. Actually, they're the ones in charge now. So, do you think that
we can give 1 more minute.
Yeah, okay, good.
And
so Tina and then
Bengt 1 minute.
Yeah.
Both 1 minute.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, perhaps if I may, because indeed a very interesting question raised. What about indeed this multidisciplinarity and Bologna? To be very fair, I don't think that Bologna prohibits a philosophy professor going into a medical classroom. So there is some flexibility, but of course it also needs to be possible at a national level. And there we see that there are different rules in different member states that of course make sense from a national, regional point of view, from a disciplinary point of view. But when combining them all together, we often face issues. So this is a call indeed to try to come to more flexible learning pathway and teaching pathway. So for that, we need all levels on board. And I'm not talking here only about the policymakers. I'm also talking about the universities, because sometimes there is also regulations at the university level that would prohibit that. So it's a joint task of all of us. And this is where, with the European degree, we are trying to also overcome this, so that it would not necessarily be the regulation of one country that would prevail, but that there is this kind of European level agreement that this multidisciplinarity would be needed.
Thank you. Yes. And then Bengt, 2 words of maybe.
It's an excellent question, but I just want to say that, remind ourselves that the university is such an old institution with all those historical sediments. And I think we need to be very careful what we do and what happened with this system in a short-term perspective and a long-term perspective. And so I think it's a really, really good question for the whole university strategy of Europe. My thinking is that it's also a matter of these cross-disciplinary exams, that they are quite successful in if you have a career outside academia. It's much more complicated if you want a career inside academia. And that makes the problem is, where should the future teachers in multidisciplinary program come from? Because now they come from disciplines. In the future, where will they come from? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. We ended up posing more questions, but still, very nice panel. Thank you all once again. Thank you for nice questions.
Thank you.
And on our behalf also, thank you, panelists. So I will ask you to go to the front row, because there's time for family picture.
Aha, it's
very good.
And everybody...
It's European...
Squeeze a little bit. So
Eurovision.
I think
Eurovision,
we're
we're supposed to sing.